Hello, my name is Mathias and welcome to the FPL scope and my team selection video for Gameweek 9. But as always, before we go to my plans for Gameweek 9, let's take a look at how I did in Gameweek 8, which is now almost 2 weeks ago since we've had an international break. But Gameweek 8 was in general a pretty successful week for me, and that's mostly due to Salah being my captain, but we'll get back to that pretty soon. But it helped me achieve an overall rank of 449k, or about 450k total in general. With 489 points overall. And that means I'm 47 points behind the top 10k, which is always my goal every season, to get into the top 10k. So hopefully we can push on and close that gap even more in the next upcoming game weeks. But let's take a look at how I closed that gap a little bit in Game Week 8. And I did that by getting 63 points. I did do a -4, and my transfers were not successful this week, as we'll get to. But yeah, I'll just quickly run through my team. In goal, I had Matt Turner, who finally got a clean sheet just in time at home. I think they played. I can't remember exactly, but 0-0 against Crystal Palace, I think. Nottingham Forest. Very, very, very nice to see that, because Flecken is out, so I really needed my goalkeeper to play this game week, and luckily Turner kept his place, even though there were rumors that he was going to be dropped for Vlachodimos in goal for Nottingham Forest. But luckily he was in goal and got a clean sheet. Udogie and Pedro Porro got a clean sheet each against Luton. Pedro Porro could have had even more. He was close to scoring in that game as well, so kind of lucky in that respect, but getting a clean sheet for both of my Spurs defenders was really nice. The Spurs game in general was really nice for me, because in the end I didn't go with Heung-min Son as captain. I went with him as vice captain. He blanked, and that's pretty much the biggest mistake I did, was bringing in Son in the first place, because I was pretty certain I was going to captain Son this game week, and that's why I was pretty rushed to bring him in for Sterling, as you can see. And Sterling got 16 points, Son got 3 points, so that was a big loss. I also did Foden to Diaby to get the money to do Sterling to Son, and I had the exact money to do that transfer, and that's why I sort of just did it in a rush. I even did it before Sterling was out for the game against Fulham the week before. So yeah, just another rushed transfer where I took a -4 hit, or basically did 2 transfers to bring in or to sell a player with a really good fixture. And both times I've done that this season, it has involved Sterling, and both times it has bit me in the ass, because I did it after the game week where Sterling got 19 points, I think, against Luton. I brought him in for a hit, even though I sold the Esse, who had a home match against Wolverhampton that game week, I think, and Esse got like 8 or 10 points, and Sterling blanked ever since I brought him in. That was the same case, basically, where I had to do the transfers early to avoid the price rise and price falls, which would lock me out of doing the transfers in general. So that is the lesson learned. I thought I had that lesson learned already, but clearly I didn't. You should not really allow price changes to dictate your early transfer activity that much. Like, you shouldn't do early transfers just because of the price differences. You should probably just be patient and stay with the guy who has a good fixture at home in the next upcoming game week. And that's going to play into what I do for the next game week as well in Game Week 9, as we'll get to when I go to the Game Week 9 team. But yeah, we were talking about Son. He got 3 points. He blanked. He had a decent assist opportunity to Pedro Porro early in the game. Other than that, he wasn't really involved that much. I know Spurs had a lot of chances at the beginning of the game, but Son wasn't really involved that much. So I know people have been saying that, oh, it's really unlucky that Son didn't get any points, but Son didn't really look all that up for it against Luton, and he was subbed off early, as was kind of expected before the game, which was kind of also the reason why I went from having Son as captain most of the game, or most of the week leading up to the Game Week 8, until switching to Salah right before the start of the game week. And it's also just because I don't really like to back the early fixture captain, and that's mostly just a preference thing in terms of having an early captain. Captaincy is like the most fun thing about FPL, basically at this point in time at least, when there are so many different captaincy options. The captain is like the most fun part of FPL, so having that player in the first fixture of the whole game week, it's kind of annoying, boring. It's kind of a letdown if they blank, especially, and I think that's probably an irrational fear. It probably is not the way you should think when you're trying to get points in FPL, but I also try to play FPL for fun, so yeah, that's partly the reason why I went for Salah, because Salah was going to have better minutes. And I also thought throughout the week it felt like Brighton were worse and worse. They got the Estepinian injury as well, which made me lean more towards Salah captaincy, and that worked out really well in the end, because Salah got 15 points times 2, that means 30 points from Salah, and that pretty much saved my game week. Gave me 63 points in total. Even with a -4 hit, I would get 59 points, which is still a decent score, and gave me the green arrow this game week. Diaby, who I also brought in, blanked. He was also slightly like an injury issue going into the game, and that's why he was subbed off early as well, I think, after like 61 minutes. So yeah, again, just a bit of a premature transfer. I could have easily waited until game week 10 to bring in Diaby, but I also felt like the Wolves fixture was a good fixture, but turned out that it wasn't that good for Aston Villa because they drew 1-1. So yeah, once again, the transfers that I did were too early and yeah, not that thought out, and that's the downside of doing the early transfers as well. You don't get the full intel of what's happening throughout the game week. And yeah, it's just not advisable to do early transfers. It has to be some like major sort of thing for you to do it. And I thought I had that with the Son captaincy thing, because I was sure I was going to captain Son at the beginning of the game week, or at the beginning of the week leading up to game week 8. But then as the week went along, I was going further and further away from that plan originally. So yeah. Either way, I also have Mbeumo, who is the player that I'm going to mention more in terms of Game Week 9, but once again, pretty disappointing score from him in Game Week 8. 2 points, another blank for Mbeumo. He played even as a striker this time against a struggling Man United side and didn't really produce much still. So yeah, Mbeumo continues to be a disappointment, but I'm probably going to give him one more week, as we'll get into with the Game Week 9 plans. Up front, I had Haaland and Alvarez playing against Arsenal away. I didn't really expect much from these players, and that's what basically happened, because both guys blanked and got 2 points each. And then I also got Cameron Archer coming in for Bukayo Saka. I was hoping that Saka was going to be able to play the game against Man City, but he was not available. He was not even in the squad. That meant that Cameron Archer came in, and Archer just blanked basically in a pretty easy match against Fulham, I should say. Yeah, they lost against Fulham. So yeah, kind of unhappy about that as well. But yeah, my bench in total, Flecken, who's out potentially long term, but probably not. It seems like now. It seems like he's going to be back pretty soon, which is good, I guess, for me. But I'm still looking to sell him pretty soon for Areola at some point. Bukayo Saka, who was injured, was subbed off and stayed on my bench, basically. And I'm hoping he's going to become healthy, but we'll talk more about that in the Game Week 9 plans. Issa Kabore was benched the whole game against Spurs, didn't even come on, and I think that's sort of understandable with Luton playing against a team that is better than them, like by far. It makes sense that Kabore doesn't play that much, because Kabore is way better going forward than he is defending. So I don't think Kabore's playing time is going to be super affected going forward. I think he's still going to be the starter mostly for Luton, but in those tougher fixtures, then maybe he's going to be benched, because he's quite an attacking player, and that's why he didn't really play against Spurs. And then finally I had Botman as well, who was also injured. There were some different reports going into the game week about his availability, and it turns out that he was injured. He still might be injured. That's another thing I have to talk about with the Game Week 9 plans, but yeah, he also stayed on my bench with 0 points. But yeah, the early transfers that I did with Foden to Diaby and Sterling to Son did not work out at all, because both Diaby and Son blanked, and Sterling got that massive 16-point haul, which is kind of annoying. Sterling has been a troll for me in FPL forever, and the same this season. I brought him in after the 19-point game week he had against Luton. He just blanked. I think he had 3 2-pointers and 1 0-pointer after I brought him in, and then I sold him, and then I get 16 points. So yeah, just typical Sterling stuff, basically. But he was always a pretty good FPL option, and that's why I brought him in the first place. He even had good chances in the games where he blanked, but it's just a bit of variance, a bit of like being unlucky, and a bit of being too preemptive by selling him early on this game week, or for game week 8. Then the final transfer I did this game week was Estupiñán to Pedro after it was known that Estupiñán was going to be out injured. I was basically forced to do transfer because, as you can see, Kabore played against Spurs and didn't play. Botman was injured. So I wouldn't have 3 playing defenders if I didn't sell Estupiñán, and that's why I felt like the move to Pedro would be a nice one, because Pedro has that goal creating possibilities. He can score goals as well, as he proved that he can against Luton. Sadly, he didn't score though, but still, that was a great transfer for me, because Estupiñán has gone down in price, Pedro has gone up in price, so that's going to help me if I want to go back to Estupiñán in the future from Pedro. I might do that. I might upgrade a different defender to get Estupiñán, because Porro looks really good. So yeah, I feel pretty good about Porro and Udogie going forward as well, but that's pretty much my score for Game Week 8. Let's move on to Game Week 9 and my plans, because my team is looking pretty good. So these are my Game Week 9 plans currently. It really depends on the injury availability of both Saka and Botman. If both of those guys are out, I have to do a transfer probably, and seeing as I have 0.0 in the bank, I don't really have that many options. Like, I would love to get someone like Højlund in attack, for example. I would love to get a good midfielder in for Mbeumo. but there are no such thing this game week in terms of 6.6 and below. I could do someone like Pedro Neto, but I'm not 100% sure he's going to continue playing as well as he has done lately. So I'm pretty much forced to do a defensive transfer. I feel like if both Saka and Botman are out, I could trust that Kabore plays against Nottingham Forest, for example, hopefully, and start him over Saka, I guess. But yeah, that's not a situation I want to be in. Hopefully Saka is going to be fit and available. I think he's going to be back, hopefully, but he was not part of the England squad as well. So yeah, maybe he won't play. But yeah, if Botman and Saka are both out, the most likely transfer I'll do is Botman to Tsimikas, because yeah, I can't really deal with Botman if he's just injured all the time. And Tsimikas is opening up as a really nice possibility now, because Andy Robertson got injured during the international break. He got a shoulder injury. And he seems to be out for at least 10 weeks, it seems like now. Those kinds of injuries can drag on a bit as well. And Tsimikas has always played whenever Robertson has been out for Liverpool. And he's only 4.4. He's a Liverpool defender. They have really, really, really good fixtures. Tsimikas has been really attacking in the past, but that might be changed a bit with the role that they have now for Trent Alexander-Arnold on the other side of the pitch. Potentially, but Tsimikas has some decent goal threat. He has decent bonus potential as well. He has decent clean sheet potential with Liverpool's fixtures becoming really easy. So I think he's a really good player to get in, and I wouldn't really mind doing the Botman to Tsimikas transfer if I had to, but ideally I just keep my transfer and stand pat and not do nothing. Hopefully Saka or Botman or both potentially would play. And then I don't have to do a transfer, because I would really like to have 2 transfers for Game Week 10, because I have some pretty big plans in terms of both midfielders, defenders, potentially even goalkeepers or forwards. Like all positions, I feel like I could potentially upgrade. I do have the wildcard in hand, but I would prefer not to use it, and I'm pretty happy with my team currently, so that's why I'm leaning towards just doing the regular transfers. And having 2 transfers in Game Week 10 would greatly help me with the prospect of having a good Game Week 10, because Game Week 9 is looking pretty good on paper. If you go through the squad, Turner in goal, playing against Luton at home. He's not going to be dropped now, I think, after getting a clean sheet last time. Luton at home is one of the best fixtures in terms of clean sheet, so that's a really good chance for me with Turner. Udogie and Pedro Porro against Fulham at home. Fulham are really bad offensively, especially when Raul Jimenez plays up front rather than Carlos Vinicius, who has played against Spurs or played for Spurs before, so maybe has sort of a revenge sort of thing there. But yeah, I think both Udogie and Pedro Porro are both good in terms of attacking potential and good in terms of clean sheet potential, which also bodes well for their bonus potential. So I think the double up on Spurs defenders is really viable at this point if you don't have Son and Maddison. Then we have Matty Cash, who plays against West Ham at home. I don't really suspect Aston Villa to keep a clean sheet in that game, but Cash could get a goal or an assist as well. Seen that happen in the past. I think he's done that against West Ham in the past as well, so not the worst fixture for Cash, even though there are better defenders. That's what we'll get to with my final segment of this video with the free hit draft. Then we have Salah playing against Everton at home. I think he has a decent captaincy chance or captaincy option as well for this game week, but it's again that early fixture, and Salah is also coming back from Egypt, where he played during the international break. He played against Algeria on Monday, I think, Monday night maybe. So he might be a bit fatigued, especially with Liverpool playing their early fixture again on the Saturday. So maybe he is someone that gets subbed off after like 70-80 minutes, but I still think Salah is going to be a fantastic option, and he is my vice captain for a reason. Then we have Heung-min Son, who has the similar sort of downside in terms of him playing for Korea. He was kind of hobbled going into the half of that game against, I can't remember who it was against, but he played for South Korea, was kind of hobbled going into the half, but he still came on and played in the second half as well, and scored and had an assist as well, I think, in that same game. So he does look really good, but he did also, again, look kind of slightly injured towards the end of the match as well. So not 100% sure about Son, and especially Son playing 90 plus minutes. I can't really see. I see him once again getting subbed off after about 70 minutes. At that point, Spurs should probably be pretty decently in the lead as well. So yeah, Son, I don't really consider him for captaincy, but I do think he has a decent chance of getting some points potentially. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure about Son going forward, but we'll talk more about that later as well. Then we have Bukayo Saka playing against Chelsea away, which is tough fixture on paper as well, but I don't really want to sell Saka. That's why I want to keep him by any means necessary, basically, because he has a really good fixture against Sheffield United at home in Game Week 10. In Game Week 12, he has Burnley at home. For those fixtures, I definitely want Saka as a potential captaincy option, so I really want to keep him. So yeah, I'm not going to sell him, but I might potentially bench him for Botman if Botman is fit and Saka is out, or if I do the Botman to Tsimikas move, I could bench Saka for Tsimikas potentially as well. So that's an option, but ideally, Saka plays against Chelsea away because I think Arsenal can still win that game pretty easily. I had that suggested as 3-1, I think, in the podcast I did with Kevin this game week yesterday. So I think Saka is a really good option if he is fit to play, but it remains to be seen, and I have to look at the team news before I do anything in regards to Saka or Botman or any transfers like that. Diaby against West Ham at home could also be a really good fixture. I do think Aston Villa will concede, but I also think Aston Villa will score against West Ham, and I think Diaby is one of the prime candidates to score in that game. Even though this game is not entirely suited for Diaby is more like a counter-attack sort of player, and West Ham are kind of the team to sort of put on the low block, which is one of the most highly talked about terms in terms of FPL this season. But yeah, West Ham likes to sit back and sort of counter on their own as well, so maybe this fixture isn't the best for Diaby, and also I think West Ham are going to win this game because West Ham are usually pretty good against Aston Villa. That's my prediction for this game. Kind of controversial as well, I know. But yeah, Diaby is still a good option. He could still score a goal or potentially even get more than 1 point return as well, so I think he's a decent option. Then we come to Mbeumo, who is playing against Burnley at home, which is like one of the ideal fixtures to have in FPL, but at the same time, Mbeumo has been playing right wing back lately. Now with Aaron Hickey out, I feel like there's a bigger chance of him playing right wing back once again, which is not going to bode well for his FPL points, but he is on penalties, he is on some set pieces still as well, and he has shown in the past that he can score really vital goals, especially towards the end of matches. And Burnley at home is just too good of a fixture, and I've learned my lesson now with both Berchese in Gameweek 4 and Sterling now in Gameweek 8, that I shouldn't really sell players before they have those easy matches against easy opposition at home. I should just keep faith in them, and that's what I feel like with Mbeumo. I feel like I can keep him for one more week, and then I can sell him regardless of what happens this game week. I can sell him next game week. If I do the bottom to Tsimikas move, I only have 1 free transfer next game week, and that would make more sense for me to do Mbeumo to Mitoma in game week 10, which is currently my plan potentially. I might do that even if I have 2 transfers, because I might do Mbeumo to Mitoma for one of the transfers and do Son to someone like Bowen or potentially even Martinelli as well for game week 10. That's something that I'm looking into as well. So Mbeumo, I like him for 1 more game week, but after that I feel like he needs to be gone for my team, because yeah, he's just been blanking it up too much lately. Then in attack, I have Haaland and Alvarez. I have Haaland as my captaincy choice, and I think he is a really good captain. But once again, I might be swayed to go with Salah before the deadline. I'm still not 100% sure I'm going to go with Haaland, but it still feels like one of those games where he should get a lot of goals. I think City have scored 6 goals the last 2 games, or 2 home games or whatever against Brighton. Haaland scored 3 goals against Brighton last season as well, so I feel like that's a good fixture for him in general. And yeah, I feel like we shouldn't really go without Haaland too much. Like, we have had a bit of fun going without him as captain. Some people have even sold him entirely. But I feel like those guys could be severely punished this game week if Haaland gets his regular hat-trick at home, which he could actually get. So yeah, Salah is still a really good captain's option, but after international break, I don't really feel that good about Salah. Meanwhile, Haaland has just played in Norway, doesn't have that much travel, didn't really have to do much against Spain either in the final national team game. So yeah, I think Haaland is still the best captaincy option currently. And then Alvarez as well should be a really good option, but once again, we have the international break sort of downside where he has played in, Peru, I think, on Wednesday, so that's pretty short turnaround. But last time around with the Game Week 4 international break, or the international break between Game Week 4 and Game Week 5, he played in Ecuador in really terrible conditions, really high altitude and all that stuff. Played about 90 minutes in both national team games, and then he played 90 minutes in the following game as well and got a lot of points. So Alvarez is that type of guy who can play pretty much every game. He is a fantastic player, so I think he's still going to be a great option. There is the possibility that we might get early team news when it comes to Alvarez and him not starting, and that would also present some difficulties with my team. If one of Saka or Botman is fit to play, especially if Saka is fit to play, I could still do the Botman to Tsimikas move and then swap out Alvarez for Tsimikas and start him instead. But yeah, at the same time, Alvarez, if he gets 60 minutes, if he gets 30 minutes, he could still get a lot of goals. So I don't really mind it, even if he comes on as a substitute, or if he's subbed off early, he can still get some points against Brighton at home. So yeah, I still think Alvarez is a good shout, even if he doesn't start. But yeah, I have to make some plans in case he doesn't start that game as well. So yeah, again, it depends on the availability of Botman and Saka, basically. That's pretty much my team for Game Week 9. No big plans, most likely just standing pat. Most likely not using the wildcard in Game Week 10 either. So yeah, I'm going to save the transfer and have 2 transfers for Game Week 10, which would be really fun to play around with for Game Week 10, because there are a lot of fixture swings happening in Game Week 10 in general. But that also leads me to my final segment of this video, and that is looking at the best potential free hit draft. Because I know a lot of people are looking into 1 week punts, because I know a lot of people are looking into wildcarding in Game Week 10. If you still have your wildcard, Game Week 10 or Game Week 19, which is what I'm looking at, is probably the best places to use your wildcard. So for anyone using the wildcard in Game Week 10, and if you have 2 transfers, 1 transfer is available, you likely want to go with like a 1 week punt, and then you can wildcard him out if need be. And I think that makes sense for me to look at potential good free hit team, because that is going to be filled with several good differentials for a 1 week punt. That's pretty much the point of a free hit, choosing the best team for that upcoming game week. So let's take a look at my team for the free hits potential draft, or let's look at my free hit draft for Game Week 9 if I were to use the free hit, which I'm probably not going to do, but it just shows you some really good players in general. So yeah, this is my free hit draft. The goalkeeper stays the same. Turner against Luton at home. He's so cheap. He's most likely going to play, so I feel like that's a good option. Chimikas, like I said, I really want to bring him in. He has a really good fixture against Everton at home, so I feel like that's a good fixture for him. Pedro Porro stays in the team as well. Fulham at home should be really good for him. I think he can get some goals, can get clean sheets, can get assists, all that stuff. Trippier, who I have actually not had in my team so far this season, I think he is definitely a really good player to go with when they have Crystal Palace at home. They should most likely keep a clean sheet, and when Newcastle keep a clean sheet, Trippier is most likely get bonus points as well, especially if he gets an assist once again, because he's gotten a lot of assists lately. So I think Trippier is also kind of an easy pick, especially if you have the money left in the bank. Then Salah against Everton at home, once again, really good fixture for him. But even better than Salah, I feel like, is potentially Diogo Jota, who is most likely going to play as a striker for them, because I think both Salah and Darwin and Luis Diaz, all of them have been in South America playing in the international break. Meanwhile, Diogo Jota has had time off, I guess. He has played for Portugal, I think he has, a little bit. And he's also been suspended in the Premier League in the previous game week. In Game Week 8, he was suspended, so I think he's going to be raring to go. Diogo Jota is also the type of player to have really good game weeks as well. He can get 13, 15, 17, 20 pointers any given game week, especially when they have an easy home fixture, which they has on paper at least against Everton at home. I think Everton is also a slightly more difficult fixture than what we give them credit for, but at the same time, I have triple up on Everton or Liverpool against Everton in this free hit draft, so I still think Liverpool will win that game pretty easily. So Jota is probably my favorite differential of them all, because I don't think many people will have him. So if you want a 1 week punt that is playing for a really good team, is most likely going to play at least 60 minutes, maybe even 90, and has really good track record in FPL as well, I think Diogo Jota is your choice. It's your first choice really for a 1 week punt. Then we have Maddison, who hasn't really traveled that far in terms of international break as well, playing as Fulham at home. I think he has all the makings in the world to have a really good game against Fulham. Set piece taker, he's pretty much pivotal to everything that Spurs do. And playing against Fulham, you suspect Tottenham to be on the front foot and have a lot of opportunities around the box, whether it's free kicks, whether it's getting a penalty potentially. Maybe Maddison takes that, I don't know. But yeah, they're going to have a lot of opportunities around the box, and that's where Maddison excels. So I think the Fulham at home fixture makes a lot of sense for Maddison. Then we have Bruno Fernandes playing against Sheffield United away. It is kind of like a risky thing to go with, because Bruno Fernandes has not been good in FPL so far this season, but once again, he looked amazing for Portugal. Sheffield United away is one of the best fixtures of the season as well. I think Sheffield United are the worst team in the Premier League by far, so I always want to target Sheffield United when it comes to a free hit, and that's what I've gone with Fernandes in this game week as well. Luton is similarly an easy team to target, and that's why I've gone with Morgan Gibbs-White, who I think has a lot of chances to score goals against Luton at home. I think he has a really good prospect, especially for this 1 week punt sort of vibe that I'm going with the free draft, as always. And I think Gibbs-White is also someone that wants to prove himself again after having kind of a rough start to the season so far. So I feel like Gibbs-White is a pretty good choice against Luton at home. Then we have Haaland, who is my captaincy pick even in this team, even above Diogo Jota. I have Haaland as captain still. Jota would be a kind of fun differential captain if you want to go with that instead as well. But again, it also depends on early teams with Liverpool if you can get that. If Jota starts, 100% sure, then yeah, maybe you should captain him because he is a good captaincy option. But at the same time, Haaland is the safe captaincy option. Brighton at home, he's going to play pretty much guaranteed in that game as well. So yeah, I think that's just the best captaincy option, and that's why Haaland obviously makes the free hit draft as well. And then finally, we have once again a target of the fixture against Sheffield United with Man United, and that is Rasmus Højlund, who once again looked really good for Denmark in the international break, and he's also looked really good in general for Man United. I feel like he's been like one of the best players for Man United, which isn't a high bar, I admit, but he's looking really, really lively, and I think he's like one of my favorite like free hit punts in pretty much any game week, because I feel like Man United are sort of like they haven't performed that well, so people are really down on them, especially those of you that had Rashford and Fernandes for most of the season as like a double up in midfield. You probably don't want to touch a Man United player ever again, especially offensively this season. But Højlund has looked really good, and I think he is really good value. And playing at Sheffield United away, it's really a really good fixture for him. Then on the bench, Strakosha in goal. I still think he's going to be starting for Brentford this game. I don't think Flecken is going to be fully fit for this game, so he's a decent backup just in case Turner doesn't play. And then we have actually Harry Maguire as the first bench player because he's only 4.2 and he's most likely going to start for Man United. And set pieces, we know Sheffield United are really bad at conceding set pieces, and that's where Harry Maguire could get some points. So if need be, if any of the starters for some reason don't play, then Maguire could step in and start as well. I think he's also a sneaky nice option to have if you kind of want to go with a cheaper team or having more expensive players offensively where you need to sort of have a cheaper team in general. Then maybe Maguire could even be a starter, but for this, he's just a really nice backup to have. Then the final two backups I have are basically just like the cheapest players you can get. Taylor playing against Brentford away for Burnley, most likely going to start, and yeah, decent potential there, but he's second bench, doesn't really matter, and then third bench especially doesn't matter, so that's why we're going with the cheapest possible player in Divine Mubama, who plays for West Ham but doesn't really play in the league, so yeah, he's basically just the final pick there. So yeah, my favorite differentials are Diogo Jota, like I mentioned, Højlund I really like, and Gibbs White as well. I feel like those three guys are players that are in barely any FPL teams at all, but having all three of them this game week would be a really nice thing to have. But yeah, they're also really good punts if you want to go with a player for just one game week. So I think in terms of punts, in terms of attackers, I think Højlund is the best punt this game week for one game week punt. In midfield, I would probably go with Diogo Jota over Gibbs White. I think Jota has the higher ceiling, but once again, it's dependent on early team use. And then defensively, I think Tsimikas has a lot of potential as well if you want to go with a 1 week punt or even beyond. You could even just bring in Tsimikas for Game Week 9 and keep him on the wildcard in Game Week 10 if that's your plan as well. So yeah, that's pretty much my ideal free hit drafts. Tell me please in the comments down below if you like this segment, if you want to have this as a recurring segment on the team selection videos on Fridays, or if you want to have like a proper like free hit drafts video on its own, I could do that as well potentially. I do have Tuesdays pretty much open for video ideas, so maybe I'll do like a proper free hit draft where I do like the most important player to have in a free hit and the least important player to have in a free hit in my squad, like I do with the weekly wildcard draft. So tell me down below if you'd like to see something like that, or if there are any other things in terms of the channel that you think I could improve upon, then please let me know in the comments. That would be really helpful for me. So yeah, with that, I think I'm just going to leave it there, and hopefully you guys have a good game week. Hopefully not as good as mine, because I hope to be #1 in FPL at some point. But yeah, either way, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time, and goodbye.